Hello Year 11 and welcome to today's learning. Today we're going to be looking at the UK's population and how it's changed. So, you have a Guardian newspaper article about the UK's population. I want you to answer the questions when you have read the Guardian newspaper article. So, pause the video now, having a read through the newspaper article and then answering the questions on your sheet. Okay, so just to go over this map in case some of you are struggling, this shows you that the changes in the population. So we can see the Isle of Wight, for example, has had a 5 to 10% population increase over the years, probably lots of elderly. We can see that Havant here has only had minus 0.7. So in Havant, the population has actually declined. Take that as you will. The biggest increases have been seen in Camden and also in Tower Hamlets. Okay, they are these black ones here. So we have a population increase of more than 20%. Okay, so pause the video again. If you need any support answering this, then please ask me on Google Classroom. Otherwise, I will speak to you again in a second. Okay, so some things about the UK's population. The UK's population is increasing. It's increasing pretty rapidly, actually. We've had an increase of 4.1 million in the last 10 years, well, between 2001 and 2011. Now, they are the last two times the census was done. And we are due another census in 2021, which, surprise, is this year. You are still too young to be doing a census by yourself, but please do ask your parents to have a look at the census. This is where we find all our population data. So we know that the UK's population is getting older. We now have 10 million people aged 65 and above. And obviously from that, we need to pay pensions, have nursing homes, hospital care. So it's important for the government to know. 87% of the UK's population describe themselves as being from a white ethnic group. And we are seeing an increase in the number of people settling in the UK from abroad. In 2001, most of them came from the Republic of Ireland. However, in 2011, actually most of them now come from India, Poland and Pakistan. Part of that is because the Irish have decided to go back to the Republic of Ireland as Ireland has become a wealthier country. Marriage has declined slightly by 4%, fewer people getting married. And the average number of rooms per household is 5. Now, on the census, they ask you all of this data and hundreds more. So please do have a look at it. The next one will be out, and it's a little bit too late for you for GCSE geography, but say year 9 and year 10, by the time the data is published, they'll be looking at what the UK's population is like in 2021. Maybe less elderly with the COVID pandemic. So just to go over from you, everything that I've said is here if you want to have a read of it. It doesn't help you with the questions. There's no cheat by skipping forward on the video, I'm afraid, my lovelies. But this is all about the UK's population. So we need to find out why this population is growing. So this graph here shows us the natural increase, which is your birth minuses your deaths, and we can see these in the blue bars. Okay, so we can see that it was quite high, started to fall, fell to its lowest in probably 2002, then it's been increasing, and then it's had a bit of a fall again in 2013. Net migration, however, started in 1992 with more people leaving the country than coming into the country, which is almost absurd to think of, in today's standards. Then we start to see migration increasing, and over time it has slowly started to decrease. The number of people coming into the UK is actually falling, and we see that now with fewer people entering the UK, and that might change with Brexit even further, with people not wanting to come to the UK anymore. So I want you to describe this graph. So start first by talking about natural increase. Okay, so your births minus your deaths. So tell me what's happened. Tell me the overall pattern. Then give me some examples. Okay, and it's done in thousands. So this is 150,000. So give me examples and then talk about anomalies. Now there are anomalies here. There's an anomaly on this one. Okay, there are anomalies all through this. There's an anomaly here. They don't quite fit the pattern that you're saying. So if you're saying from 2002 until 2012 the population's increased, well, this year it hasn't. Okay, so make sure you reference that. There's lots of anomalies in our net migration. So again, once you've described the natural increase, then it's the second paragraph telling me how migration has changed. So again, tell me what's the overall pattern, what's happening overall, and then give me some specific examples. So in this year it was this much, and then talk about anomalies. And again, we have two quite major anomalies in these years here. Okay, so pause the video now and describe how natural and migration rates have changed since 1992. Okay, so a population pyramid now. You've seen these before, but I'm going to go over them really quickly with you. So up the middle, we have the age groups from 0 to 4. Boys, there was 2 million and probably about 1.9 million girls, showing that in the UK, there's slightly more 0 to 4-year-old boys than there are girls. It might just be an off year. They're generally pretty similar. There is obviously an equal chance of having a boy or a girl baby. And the only country this would look different in was China. Everyone else, they're pretty much the same. Until we get to the elderly. We can see here there is significantly more 90-plus-year-old females than there are males. Okay, and women generally live longer, and you see a larger proportion of elderly females than we do elderly males. What you also have on this one is what the population was like in 2001. Okay, so it's reasonably easy to understand. 10 to 14-year-olds, there was males probably about 1.8 and females probably about 1.75. Okay, so this is really important if we're looking at school-age children. So the governments will look at this and be like, oh, hang on a minute, actually there's more now young kids. We need to build some more schools. So we saw this in Portsmouth. City Girls had the extension, Langston, Milton Park have had the extensions and the porta cabins put into them. Okay, so governments will use these all the time to be able to plan what to do for its populations. Okay, so what I want you to do first of all is tell me, what does the population pyramid show? What's good about presenting data in this way, and what's not so good about presenting data in this way? Then I want you to identify 3 changes that have taken place between 2001 and 2011. Okay, so for example, I might say the number of 90 plus females has increased. All right, and actually the number of 90 plus males has increased. Okay, so that's one change that's taken place. Then for these 3 identified areas, I've only done one for you. Why has this taken place? Why are there now more elderly people? And that's for you to have a think about. Is the death rate likely to increase in the near future? And why? So the death rate is the number of people dying. Do you think the number of people dying is likely to increase? Okay. And why might there be a shortage of labour? This is working age people in 2021. So think about the number of 15 to 19. They're going to now be in the bar of 25 to 29. Okay. So think about, why might there be a shortage of labour? Especially this 5 to 9. In 10 years, they're 15 to 19. So they sit in this bar. Some of these are starting to get jobs. So why is it that in 2021, we might not have as many young people available to work? Not because they're not working, just because there aren't as many of them in the country. All right, so have a look at that really carefully. So pause the video now, answering all of these questions. Okay. Now, some of you might be, oh, I need a bit of help, I'm not too sure. There's some answers on here. All right, so just check back over your answers, have a read of all of this on this slide, check back through your answers and add anything that you're like, oh yeah, that's what it is. Oh yeah, I get that. But yeah, it's definitely, okay. So just have a look through and add anything to your work. Okay, so next thing we need to look at populations is something called the demographic transition model. Now, again, I think we've looked at this before when we've done development, and we've looked at birth rates and death rates and how they change over time. Now, we know that birth rates and death rates will have an impact on the population. So in stage 1, we see countries have high birth rates and high death rates, and they have a pretty stable population. So countries in stage 1 have probably women having 7 kids. Most people won't live past their 50th birthday, and the population is relatively high because for every 7 people born, 7 people die. Okay, they almost cancel each other out. Now, as a country develops, it moves into stage 2. And what we see happening in stage 2 is the death rate falling. Okay, this means the number of people dying is getting less, and that's due to medical care. Okay, it's as simple as that. It is due to advances in medical care in that country. Okay, so no longer are women dying at birth. We saw that video, pretty graphic. I don't think you'll ever forget it for as long as you live. And women are now not dying during childbirth. Okay, cesarean sections would happen. Children are immunised. Okay, but the birth rate's still high. Women are still having lots of babies. They're just not dying. So because the birth rate's higher than the death rate, the population's going to increase. Okay, stage 3, we see the death rate continuing to fall, but also now we see the birth rate falling. Women are realising that kids are expensive and they're not dying. So we start to see, like in Brazil, in stage 3, that actually women go from having 6 children down to probably 2 or 3 children. So they just don't need this many children to help them with work. And kids are expensive and they're all surviving now, so there is a need to have fewer of them. The population's still going to increase because the birth rate's still higher than the death rate. Okay, then we get to stage 4, and this is where the United Kingdom sits. Birth rates and death rates are both the same. Okay, and they're both quite low. Women are really only having 1 baby, and not very many people die. And the population starts to level off. Okay, we start to see it leveling off. There is still some lag coming from stage 3. The population's still slowly increasing, but actually we tend to see that births and deaths are very low. So at this stage, it's the complete opposite to stage 1. Stage 5 got added more recently because Germany's in this stage, and this is where we see the population start to decrease, and this is where we start to see deaths outstripping births. So we see for the first time ever the green line going above the blue line. Okay, women are just having very, very, very few babies, and people are still dying. And sometimes the death rate increases with things like obesity and the problems that causes. Okay, so you have some tick box classification to classify the statements into each of the stages. Okay, and then an extension to do. Okay. The demographic transition model suggests that the less developed a country is, the more likely it is to have a high birth rate and rapid population growth. And I want you to decide if this is true at the moment. We're going to find out in later lessons if it's true, but I want you to think about that now. I want you to think about this UK in the 21st century, and I want you to link this back to the topic we did in development all those months ago in year 10, when I made you watch that video about the women giving birth. Okay, so final thought for today. Do you agree that migration is helping to prevent the UK drifting into stage 5 of the demographic transition model? All right, so are we not going to have a decline in population because of the migrants coming in, or do you think it's not going to matter? Migrants or no migrants, eventually we're all going to start, the population's going to start to fall. So a thought for you just have a quick think about. It's not on your Google form, just want you to keep that into the back of your minds. So that's it for today's lesson. If you have any questions, please contact me on Google Classrooms. Otherwise, I will see you for your next lesson.